smaller job, there could be a universe. I guess if you have like 2 windows, right? There is a universe in which maybe a percentage of that, So maybe it's not so much eliminating the fee for the homeowner, but creating like 2 options.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something that could get us around the issue, because what we can't have is, we can't say that we're not increasing fees for a group and have someone else pick that up. I understand your point, but
No, and I do understand your point, Madam Chair, but I'm just gonna be honest with you. I'm not gonna vote for increased fees on homeowners. Like, I'm just not gonna do that. I do understand your point. I don't think it's a big increase, but I'm not gonna vote yes. If we would be able to pass on that fee to the private sector, I would be happy to support this. But otherwise, I understand your point. I think you make a good point. But I'm not going to vote for it.
right. Alternatively, I mean, and we talked about this at length, Lourdes. Alternatively, like we said, we provide free programming for homeowners. I mean, we could charge a fee for that programming. That's like the alternative. So we have exemptions.
I don't think so. I think that we can definitely meet with the director and try to brainstorm how this might be possible, and perhaps by the time we come before the full board, we can come up with something, and if not, then we don't.
Happy to meet with you. Happy to do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. I will move the item, but I do want to say something too. I mean, no one wants to raise even 50 cents, right? We don't want to raise fees on anybody. We did have the industry come out and actually support this, which I was almost fell over. Hi, Truly. But I will say that there is something that we also have to think about, which is the long-term picture. And they have forecasts. They need to be, they're an enterprise fund, as we talked about.
Exactly.
And they need to be self-sustaining. And at the rate they're going, they weren't going to be self-sustaining, which means that then they would have to potentially borrow from the general fund to cover. So then you'd be double subsidizing by dipping in to cover the costs that they should be self-sustaining to do. So I think it's so much more complicated, and I think that this is such a modest increase. And I hope that you don't have to come back in front of us again anytime soon, but I also hope that you're planning properly so that you're not in the position where you're going to have to borrow from the general fund. So thank you very much with that.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I echo the sentiments of Commissioner Gonzalez, and it gives me a little bit of heartburn, this item, just because I know that these fees eventually might trickle down to the residents. And so I would prefer if we could move this without recommendation to the BCC, because I know that it's important to get it there. That would be my recommendation.
I would support that.
Okay.
I move it without a recommendation.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right, folks. Anything else? All right. And with that, I will say that our next meeting, we're going to spend a little bit extra time. So just plan ahead. Plan ahead for the July meeting. Oh, can we forward the last item to the BCC? I'll make a request, but if we can forward the last item to the next BCC. Thank you. You mean 3P? Yeah, 3P. Yeah. 3P and its supplement. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.
Report said some of them were later determined not to be illegal and were released, but ICE did not confirm that. Florida's biggest utility is asking for a rate increase of almost $10 billion over the next 3 years. This week, the Public Service Commission toured parts of the state served by Florida Power and Light to get customer feedback. Dozens of people spoke at stops in South Florida, most of them for the rate increase.
In my view, rates come down to are a reflection of infrastructure, operational costs, and storm preparedness. and nothing happens without money.
But customers against the increase said the issue is how much money.
What FPL is requesting really amounts to corporate greed. They're asking for a return on equity of 11.9%, which is far above the national average. That's pure profit.
Many customers praised FPL's storm hardening and quick response after hurricanes. Others pointed out that customers are charged separately for all that work. Starting June 3rd, the PSC will hold hearings for FPL customers in the Panhandle, some virtual, some in person. For details, go to psc.state.fl.us and click on Service Hearings for Florida Power and Light. Hurricane season begins on June 1st, and state leaders say now is the time to get prepared. Speaking at a Jupiter Home Depot Friday morning, the governor said he hoped it was the last time we'd see him with the emergency management director this summer.
And, you know, we can pray for that. And hopefully that ends up happening. We do deserve a little bit of a break.
Last year, Florida was hit by 3 hurricanes, 2 of them major storms. Kevin Guthrie said predictions for this hurricane season call for similar activity.
And the division has already begun pre-staging response resources throughout the state of Florida. We're training personnel, and we're establishing contingency plans to ensure that Florida remains prepared.
Guthrie said the state has stockpiled water, shelf-stable meals, and tarps. It has dozens of disaster response contracts already in place. He and the governor are urging Floridians to make a hurricane response plan and build their emergency supply kits. The governor noted that a sales tax holiday on those items should be starting now, but hasn't because the legislature is still at work on a budget.
I think you need 2 weeks early so that you can get all the supplies you need tax-free. So we're going to make sure one way or another there's going to be hurricane preparedness tax holiday.
Earlier this week, several state lawmakers joined former Governor and U.S. Senator Rick Scott at hurricane preparedness events around the state. They also stressed preparedness and the need to listen to emergency officials when a storm approaches.
You know, I just had my knee replaced last week. I can't do anything. I can hardly walk. And I'm thinking, if there's a hurricane coming my way, what do our older citizens do to prepare? And so I think we need to do some more focus on our residents and make sure that we are prepared, that we heed the warnings of emergency management. We need to be prepared to care for our neighbors and make sure that they can get out of harm's way.
In Clearwater, Representative Bernie Jacques recalled meeting a local woman who did not heed evacuation orders during Hurricane Milton and lived to regret it.
She was explaining to me that her and her elderly husband, they stayed. They did not heed to the cautions, but they found themselves standing on a kitchen table as the water was rising, and they're holding their small dog while this is happening. And the water is right up to their feet while they're standing on a kitchen table. This is a harrowing experience that you do not want to experience.
For more information on hurricane and disaster preparedness, visit floridadisaster.org. Hurricane season runs through November 30th. The Office of Insurance Regulation launched a webpage to show what you can do to make your home less vulnerable to high